when it comes from buying a home. We haven't talked about it in a long time, right? But there is buying a home cash, there's buying a home with conventional financing, and then we also talk about non-recourse loans, this idea that you can buy a home in your retirement account, and yet it has to be maintained inside of, like, you can't mix funds, right? Like pre-tax, post-tax dollars. Are there any special considerations when it comes to buying a home with a non-recourse loan to hold in your IRA or your 401k when it comes to new versus renovated homes?
There's really no difference in terms of a new home, new construction home versus a renovated home for the property going into your retirement account. However, when you put a property into your retirement account, reserves become an even bigger deal for you, right? Reserves are a big deal no matter how you're purchasing the home, because we want to make sure you're set up for success and ready for that rainy day. But when it's outside of your retirement account, you can continue to contribute money to that reserve account if you need it. Let's say that you put $3,000 in your reserve account, and then you have higher than normal property turn cost of $4,000. Well, if it's outside of your retirement account, you can just put that extra $1,000 into your account and pay for that property turn. In a retirement account, you have limits to the amount that you can contribute. And sometimes those limits are relatively small. I think it's about $6,000 a year for an IRA. Sometimes they're larger, and we can work with you to set up the entity the right way and the vehicle the right way. Sometimes it can be more. It can be upwards of $50,000, but that's dependent on a lot of things. So sometimes you might be in an IRA and you might be limited to only contributing, let's just say $6,000 into that account. Maybe use that $6,000 to go invest somewhere else. Right. So you contributed $6,000 for that year, you invested it somewhere, and then you have a property turn that might come in to play, new construction or renovation. If you don't have that reserve account and that money there, you can't just say, hey, listen, I just made a nice bonus at work. Let me just throw a little bit more into that retirement account, reserve account. You just can't do it. And so that is something that we work with clients to avoid. It is very important that we do that, to work with you to make sure that we avoid that, because that's something I don't have a solution for you. I can't rewrite the contribution limits for the IRAs. Like, if you can't pay for the renovation that has to happen, that's a really challenging place to be that we don't want to be.
So is there a rule of thumb of like holding X% more reserves if you're doing it inside of an IRA versus the idea that about 6 to 10?
Yeah. So for us, it's 3 to 6 months is what we would tell people to prepare for. 3 to 6 months of expenses is what I would tell anybody to prepare for a property that you're purchasing, and just keep that in your reserve account. I'd probably double that when it comes to, a property in your retirement accounts. Right. And over time, as you build more properties into your retirement accounts, you have more diversification of assets in your retirement accounts. You don't need to contribute 12 months of reserves per property forever. But when you have one property, for sure. When you have 2 properties, sure. When you have 3 properties, yeah, probably, and so, because you just can't get stuck. Well, if you having a turn cost or having maintenance cost without having money in your reserve account, if it's within an IRA or any retirement account.
Got it. So when you say costs, like 3 to 6 months, you're talking about like mortgage plus a calculation of maintenance, plus a calculation of property management, plus insurance and taxes kind of thing. Like whatever the outright costs are without any contribution from the tenant, from the resident.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Okay. Yep. Assume that you're not getting any income for that month. How many months could you technically survive within your reserve account to cover that loss? So simply, I just keep it's about $1,000 per property if you just want to use kind of a rule of thumb based on what the market is right now. So, for your first rental property, if you only have one, plan 3 to 6 months, $3,000 to $6,000 in a reserve account right off the bat, and then you won't be surprised most likely if something unforeseen should happen. Because what we're trying to avoid is you having to dip into your personal bank account to solve a rental property problem. If I can just contain all of the cash flow swings for you, both positive and negative, and keep it in this reserve account for you, you're going to be fine, right? What we're trying to avoid is you having to go into your personal bank account to bring money for the things that you wanted to do, the vacation you wanted to go on, the dinner you wanted to take your wife, and pull that into your reserve account. That's when we start getting frustrated and emotional and getting upset at the property. So that's what we're trying to avoid.
Got it. And Lee says that his solo 401k has 15K in reserves for his properties, for his 5 houses that he has in there.
Perfect.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. And that's great because he's bought those over time. He worked up to 5 properties, and you can see that reserve amount per property can come down once you reach a certain level of diversification. Because what are the chances that Lee has $15,000 worth of expenses all at one time? It's just very unlikely.